Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings, a big welcome to another one in my canal series. Last time on the canal series we were on the Stroud Water Canal, looking at the exciting news and the money that's been granted from the National Lottery there, over £6 million to enable the restoration of that to go ahead, and the Stroud Water and also the Thames and Severn Canal in the town of Stroud to be connected up to the canal network. Now, another canal that's undergoing restoration in the area of West Country Wanderings is this one here, one we've covered several times before. Now, I won't say what number video this should actually be, so you're probably thinking what's happened to number, and I won't say it because I'm a little bit superstitious. You probably think that's a bit strange. So I've called this number 14, the previous one is number 12, if you get my drift. It's actually icy roads here this morning, and I thought if I call it that particular number, well, with icy roads you never know what's coming. So it's a really cold day, but it's also dry and sunny, perfect conditions. It's about 1 or 2 degrees here. It was about -3, -4 overnight, so there's a bit of frost on the ground here. What's this all about? So we're back on the Wilts Berks Canal. In that direction, behind the camera and kind of up a bit, takes you to the town of Royal Wotton Basset, where part of the section of that has been restored, and I'll link to that one at the end of this because we've covered that before. Down in that direction, which is down towards Symington, where of course the canal linked up with the Kennet and Avon Canal as Foxham Lock, and so we've kind of looked at that bit before as well, and again I'll link to that video. But here we're in the parish of Dauntsey. It's actually a very, very large parish. Huge village, not in terms of population or housing, but in terms of land area. I drove through past the church there, and I think it's called Dauntsey Park, many miles ago. It seemed ages ago to get to this location here. So we're off a lane. I'll insert a map in now. Now, it also gets a little bit complicated around here in terms of land rights, land ownership, so I'll explain more about that as we go on. So we haven't been given landowners permission to be where I am here at this particular spot, and I'll put a pin on that now so you can see what it is. Just a few metres in that direction towards Royal Wotton Basset, it's private land, so don't try and access that. Now, how this has come about is I saw a Facebook post about 2 weeks ago from the Wilts Berks Canal Trust, and they've restored a section. They've actually cleared the towpath and, in conjunction with the landowner, given you access to a place called Dauntsey Lock, which is where, coincidentally, the headquarters of the Wilts Berks Canal Trust is. So I'm going to walk from here, and I'll tell you more about where we are at the moment, towards Dauntsey Lock to have a look at that, because previously it's not been accessible. Show you about that, insert a couple of old photographs of it and tell you more about the Dauntsey Lock site. But also between Dauntsey Lock and here there are some more locks. In fact, there are 7. So let's have a closer look. So yes, we're looking at the restoration of the Wilts Berks Canal, of course, number 14 thereof. We've looked at previous sections, including a large section in the town of Swindon, which is not in Wiltshire, but we are in Wiltshire today. This behind me here is the railway line. It's the main GWR railway line that heads west from Swindon through Royal Wotton Basset, which currently doesn't have a railway station. It used to have a railway station. There are plans at some future point to reopen again, but no immediate plans, heading kind of southwest to the larger Wiltshire town of Chippenham, which is kind of off down there. And then beyond that, of course, you've got Bath, Baines and Bristol in, well, Bristol. So yeah, back on the Wilts Berks Canal. Now, there are 2 canal trusts here. This is where it gets a little bit complicated today. So we have the Wilts Berks Canal Trust, which are seeking to, well, ultimately reopen all of it between Abingdon-on-Thames, where it meets the River Thames, in Oxfordshire, right down to Symington Lock, where it meets with the Kennet and Avon Canal. But there is another trust in between that, and we'll be looking at what they've been doing a little bit further along there. I have touched on that because they look at the section around Foxham Locks, which we have looked at before, so a little bit confusing. This section here, though, which I think is part of the Wilts Berks Canal Trust, and if you are a volunteer, please correct me if I've got any of this wrong, because I've tried to get the best information I can, but it is a little bit difficult trying to unpick who looks after which section here. This is known as 7 locks. Now I think there are 7 locks which take the canal up over 20 metres over a distance, well, probably less than a kilometre. So yeah, 7 in that short section, and I think we've got 3 or 4 here down towards Dauntsey Lock, which is where we're going to be heading to. So yeah, so let's have a look at this here. Let's have a look at one of the locks. Now there are large pounds here. Beyond the camera, which is out of view, there's a copse over there, and just the other side of that is a place called Tockenham Reservoir, and that reservoir was built kind of around about it says 1810, but I would imagine, because this kind of section was built before then, the actual canal arrived at Dauntsey Lock in 1800, so they started the section from Semmington to Dauntsey Lock first, 1800. And then of course you got that lock, and then you've got this series of 7 locks here. And of course when you've got a lot of locks like that, similar to what you've got Devizes, where you've got the Kine locks there, you need a large volume of water. We've also seen that at Tardebigg there on the Worcester Birmingham Canal. So there is a large reservoir there. I can't get access to it because it was bought out by, I think it's called Amalgamated Fisheries in 1980, so it's completely private. It's only if you are a member of that particular institution, and there's like a combination lock on the gate to get you into it. So 7 locks here, but as I say, 3 or 4 that direction, whichever it is in this direction. We'll see how we go. And there are various pounds that you can see where the canal's widened to store the water which they would have needed to go through the sluice gates on the locks to operate them, to get the barges up this section here in Wiltshire. Here we have one of the locks behind us. As I say, I'm unsure of the number because I can't identify the locks beyond here and count backwards. I can't give you a specific number. So we're kind of in the middle of the 7 locks, so kind of 3 or 4. So I'm not sure which way they are counted from. So there's no marker point here that the Trust have put up as yet. Now, unfortunately, this has not yet been cleared, so they are working on the locks. Dauntsey Lock was actually cleared around about 1995, I believe, by the Wessex Waterways Recovery Group. I think that's the right name for them, not the Waterways Recovery Group, the WRG, isn't it? So actually that one is Waterway Recovery Group. That's a national group. The WRG is a national group. This one is a local, and it was set up specifically to look after sections of what was a previous Wilts Berks Canal Trust. I think it was called the Wilts Berks Recovery Group. Yeah, it's a bit or amenity group even. So yeah, it's changed its names over the years, and of course there have been changes of management and people that have been looking after these trusts here in Wiltshire. But yes, this is one of the locks here, and you can see clearly the red brickwork signs which we've seen previously. Last time we were between Swindon and Royal Wotton Basset, looking at a nature reserve there, and one of the locks there, and as you see it's the same standard brickwork here. I'm not sure if this has previously been repaired. I have a feeling it may have been, but since that time it has unfortunately become overgrown again. Also, they are in a bit of a dangerous state, hence why it has been fenced off. So locks can be dangerous. Obviously, if you're in a narrowboat and you're on a canal and you're following the safety guidelines, it's absolutely fine. But when they're in an abandoned state like this, any time, particularly as the ground dries on it, becomes wet, there are liable to be collapses of those large lock walls, so you have to be extremely careful. So I'm not going to be entering in there. I'm not doing that to make a YouTube video here, and obviously want to carry on making videos here on West Country Wandering. So yeah, I am going to keep well away from that for safety reasons. But as we head towards Dauntsey Lock here and the lane, I'll show you that lane in a moment, it'll become a little bit clear as we get to the other ones. But yeah, great to see that one of the 7 locks. This is the second of our locks, heading in the direction of Dauntsey Lock. So I say I'll insert the map so you can see where we are. Looks very similar. Now it's pretty clear there has been some restoration of this. This may have been done, of course, at the same time that Dauntsey Lock was done some 30 odd years ago, with those different Canal Trust restoration groups that have changed over the years. And again, it has become overgrown with bramble in there, but of course that then can be cleared out. You can see the original brickwork down there, which has been, well, it's still there of course, and you've got the original limestone coping stones here on the edge of the lock. Let's carry on our walk along to Dauntsey Lock. Lock 2 from the other direction, and it's clear restoration has taken place, and I would date it, as I say, around about 30 years or so. But if you volunteer for either of the trusts involved with these sections here, then if you know more, please drop a comment below. Really love to hear from you. And while I'm here, and I'd like to give out thanks to all of the volunteers for the Wilts Berks Canal Trust and the Wessex Waterways Restoration Group for all the amazing work they do, clearing the towpaths, restoring locks, operating narrow boats. Had trips at the summer at Royal Wotton Basset. Trips still carry on in Swindon there by Waitrose supermarket there. That's a wonderful section there, isn't it? Wiltshire, that's absolutely brilliant, and all the hard work goes into that. And of course the shop in Swindon as well, the volunteers that man that shop there. So yeah, really great work that both of them do, and I say it's a delight. I'm really looking forward to it. I did do a quick recce, so it does look like the towpath is clear from what I've seen so far down towards Dauntsey Lock. You can just see here how incredibly wide the canal goes, because there would have been a basin here, possibly for water, but also potentially for a winding hole for turning barges around. I'm not sure. Don't know if there was a little wharf here as well. There may have been. Up here though is our lock that we've just been looking at, as I say, number 2, but it's in the middle, so I'm not sure the exact number, potentially number 5. And yeah, so this is really good to see it here, isn't it? That looks absolutely wonderful, particularly on a beautiful sunny, albeit chilly day. So I think this is actually our 7th lock, so the previous 2 were obviously 6 and 5 where we started, and there's that wide pound there. Wilts Berks Canal Trust have provided one of their excellent maps here to show us exactly where we are, but I can put that on a bit more clearly on my overlays. But yeah, so it's also put the Cotswold canals there. You can see the Stroud Water and Thames and Severn Canal on the map as well, and of course the Kennet and Avon Canal going from Bath to Reading. So yeah, great stuff. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see it all connected up again? And of course we're there with the red dot near Royal Wotton Basset and Lynham. So this here is Bowds Lane, and that's the electrified line down there towards Chippenham. In fact, the electrification ends at Chippenham, or in that general area. Now originally of course there would have been a humpback bridge here to take the canal under Bowds Lane, but of course that has been demolished because of the wider agricultural vehicles these days and the weight of them, and it has been kind of flattened, and the canal, this section, has been partially infilled. But we're going to be heading down in this direction here. As I say, bear in mind it's not a right of way, it's just the landowner giving permission through here, and it does actually say another one of those signs there, welcome to the 7 locks on the Wilts Berks Canal. So this marks the boundary marker between what's looked after by the Wilts Berks Canal Trust, which is what we've seen so far, and this section which is looked after by the Wessex Waterways Restoration Trust. And I'll link to both the Waterways Canal Trust's websites in the description of today's video. So it is a bit confusing, that sign there, because it says private, no right of way. It is not a right of way, so it's not green dotted on the OS map, but as it says, with the kind permission of the landowner, so we are allowed to walk from here down to Dauntsey Lock. And as I say, I'll put the map in and a link to the map in the description of the video today. Now, correction to what I said earlier, I think I said the 7th lock was by the road there, the lane. It looks like it's this one, but this one has yet to be excavated, so you can see the canal is deeply in there, but it's completely covered up, so somewhere buried under there will be some brickwork for the lock here, because I'm on a slope here of the towpath. We're actually going down, so we're looking back down this way, so it doesn't look like a lock, but it must have been because of the slope, as you can see there. And of course water doesn't go uphill, so there's our slope of the towpath, so that must be, I think, the 7th. But we've got some bricks here, so they have found some bricks from the lock which have been put here by the Wessex Waterways Recovery Trust. And yeah, you can see them there, so they would have come out of the lock basin there from the walls of the lock, hopefully at some point in the future to be reused again to reopen and re-maintain this lock here. Now it's not recommended to stray off the towpath because as I said, there's fences around it either side, but you may be tempted to explore in there, but there are hidden dangers, if you like, because there's been excavations that have been made over the years as the restoration take place, and it's not obvious as to where they are, so you may come unstuck if you do that. So I'd strongly advise you to stick to the towpath. And a wonderful job they've been doing at clearing this towpath as well. They've been clearing the hedges. You can see how neatly trimmed the hedges have been cleared on the right hand side of the towpath, and cleared the worst of the bramble from the bed of the canal itself. Wonderful. In terms of parking to explore this section of the Wilts Berks Canal, you have a number of options. There is a little pull-in bay, Bowds Lock, B-O-W-D-S, I think that's right. Again, insert the map. There is a little pull-in bay. There's not much there though. There is a little bit of a pull-in near a farm in Sodom Lane. Now, Sodom and Gomorrah, wasn't that in the Old Testament? There were two cities which were destroyed, weren't they? Yes. I'm not sure how this one got its particular name here. Quite interesting. Not come across that before in any of the West Country Wanderings region, but if you know another one, please drop a comment below. And also, of course, you can park at the Peterborough Arms, as you say, which is owned by the Wilts Berks Canal Trust. Has been now for a number of years. I think it's about 11 or 12 years under new management not that long ago. So please support the Peterborough Arms, and any profits of that also go into the Wilts Berks Canal Trust. So you can park there and then walk back along from Dauntsey Lock in this direction. So this is Sodom Lane. The lane carries on there and it goes underneath the main line between Swindon and Chippenham. And 7 locks are in that direction through there. But we're going to continue on in this direction, and this is the new section that's been reopened. I think all of it was overgrown. The line of the canal though is, well, it's difficult to work out at this point because it's been completely filled in. It's through there where the cows are now, but yeah, difficult to make out at this section. Of course, there would have been a humpback bridge again here with the lane going underneath the canal. Now the line of the canal is there. That's the 2 gates. There's Sodom Lane. And there is a building here which is derelict, still has some walls standing, and because of the red bricks that have been used in its construction, I'm hazarding a guess that at one time that was used for the canal. because it's on the edge of the field, but it's also right on the edge of the canal, because it's literally the other side of that wall, although the towpath is on the other side. So I'm just wondering if there was indeed a little wharf here at Sodom Lane. I'm not sure if I can find that out, but if I can do, then I'll drop the information below. But it's interesting to see that. Let's have a little bit of a closer look of it, though. Yeah, so there it is. It's still standing. Two bits of it are still standing. There is a little gate there. It's a little bit overgrown. I don't think I could be able to see any more than what I can already see from here. But that's definitely the same bricks that they've used in the constructions of those 7 locks. Well, some of them, which we saw, the 7 locks here on the Wilts Berks Canal. Great to see, and I say it could have been for a wharfinger or for a wharf that was here at Sodom Lane, where the canal went under the lane. Okay, so let's continue our walk along the Wilts Berks Canal towards Dauntsey Lock. Now, though the canal itself has been grubbed out, I've got an audience here. I've got an audience on YouTube, but I've got this audience here. They're looking at me, wondering what I'm pointing and looking at. But yeah, so we've got I think this is a culvert here, or a little mini aqueduct. So this is the towpath here. The canal would have been where the cows are, and but this was potentially something to do with the canal. Water going underneath it for a little stream, I would think, to drain the field there. Now this is really interesting here. As I say, you wouldn't even know there was ever a canal here, but we're going through a field, or rather a gate here. There's a hedge line there. Sorry about the dodgy lighting, but just beyond it we can make out our canal again, and it's got water in it. Oh, it's good to see the Wilts Berks Canal in water. In fact, it's a little bit icy up there. That's our field there, where the cow's just beyond that tree and hedge line. Yeah, so definitely water in the canal, but frozen too. You can get a real sense of how well engineered the Wilts Berks Canal was, long before lasers and GPS, how they managed to pick out the line here from the contour of the lower level of the line. So they needed to, or it certainly reduced the amount of locks that were required. But heading towards Royal Wotton Basset, we saw just now, they had no choice but to put those 7 locks in. Somewhat surprisingly, considering all the rain that we've had over the past couple of weeks, this towpath remains pretty much mud-free. But I guess the reason for that is it has hardly been used by walkers much at the moment, because, well, probably not that many people are aware that it's even open yet. Well, this is a most delightful walk. I think we're about halfway now between Sodom Lane and the lock at Dauntsey, and yeah, I think the ice is starting to clear here. It was still quite icy there because it's still in a bit of a dip and well away from the sun, but here it seems to be clearing. It's a most pleasant walk. I've only seen one other person, and yes, they were a volunteer for the Wilts Berks Canal Trust. They were at the entrance to the 7 locks section there, and I thanked him for all the work that the volunteers themselves and all the amazing volunteers that the Wilts Berks Canal Trust has, as indeed this section here, which is of course the Wessex Waterways. But yeah, brilliant. It's a beautiful walk, really nice day with the sunlight, a little bit chilly. I'm going to head actually into Royal Wotton Basset after I've finished filming this video today. May do a short bite video there, not sure yet, but I think I'll be heading into a cafe there for a coffee to warm up after the walk though. But it's really, really nice, delightful to be out in the sunshine and just the peace and quiet and the surrounds of nature all about. Now just here is a spillway. It's an oval shaped spillway. Of course the water, if there's too much of it in the canal, can go underneath the little sluice here, underneath the towpath, into the spillway, and I can actually hear it trickling out into the fields over on that side of it. But what's curious around here is the GWR. You're thinking, what have they got to do with our canal? Well, the canal company had something that the GWR needed. And yes, of course, that's water. Of course, they built a proprietary reservoir there somewhere between 1800 and 1810. It was certainly finished by 1810 as the section continued on around to Royal Wotton Basset and Swindon. They had a copious amount of it because it was quite a large reservoir. There's a dam on it per se. Unfortunately, I can't show you it. So that water was feeding into those locks. Of course, they needed water for their steam locomotives. There was a railway station at Dauntsey. In fact, there was kind of two. I'm not sure if there's remains of it, because it was where the branch left for the town of Malmesbury, which was a subject of an earlier video here on West Country Wanderings, which predated my Lost Railway Walk series. We had a look around the town of Malmesbury for remains of the Malmesbury branch, was to say, originally left from here. Later on, when they built the Badminton cut-off line directly to South Wales, it was truncated to Little Somerford, and yeah, went back that way. But they needed the water, and they actually paid, I think it was around about 1810, they paid the company, the Wilts Berks Canal Company, the proprietors of that, the sum of £300 a year. So I'll put what that is in today's money. So it was a fair bit of money for the water, which presumably would have been used for the steam engines on the main line just going through Dauntsey. But we'll have a look a little bit, if I've got time to have a look at that when we get into the Dauntsey wharf side there, because the railway isn't far away, the bridge that goes over it. But yeah, spillway lock here, and I say I'm wondering if at this point it was where it was fed off into and across to the GWR. We have this curiosity in the Wilts Berks Canal at this point. Presumably it's some kind of dredger. It was used, I would imagine, by the precursor of the Wessex Waters Recovery Group. And this vessel is called Burland. It looks like it was originally owned by the British Waterways, which was the forerunner of the Canals and Rivers Trust. But yeah, not sure how long that's been in the canal. I would imagine quite some considerable time, judging by the state of it. We've got the road and Dauntsey Lock and the Peterborough Arms. I've no idea why it's called the Peterborough Arms. Peterborough obviously is a long way from here, and not in my region I cover here on YouTube, but not sure why it got that name. If you do know, please drop a comment below. Next to the road here is an original weighbridge. Love seeing these. Perhaps they were a way to go on to the canal before they went onto it by the side of the road. They were taking one off the canal and then going on thence by road to other places. And this one was made by Bartlett and Son in Bristol to weigh 6 tons. And it's all completely intact. So this is the weighbridge office here. Isn't that wonderful to see? And down on the left there is Dauntsey's original station. There was a separate building for the Malmesbury branch. That no longer exists, but Dauntsey station has been restored. And here's Dauntsey Lock, which is bigger than the locks that we've seen earlier in the video, the 7 locks. There's a reason for that, which we'll talk about. And you can see it widens on the other side, on the Royal Wotton Basset side of the lock. So here at Dauntsey, The yard, the wharf and the lock was built to take 35-ton barges. It opened from Symington on the 6th of June 1800. It's really wide because, as well as being a wharf, on the other side of there was a basin for coal. This basin was used by the business called the Barnes Coal Business. Yeah, so they would have had that. There was another coal business serving the wharf on the opposite side of the canal. The lock itself is 72 foot long and 9 foot wide. So yeah, much bigger lock, shall I say, than the 7 lock stage that we saw further on earlier part of today's video here on the Wilts Berks Canal. The level difference gradient that it goes up is 8 foot and 8 inches. The canal here was actually taken out of use in 1897 on this section here at Dauntsey Lock, and the whole lot was taken out by an Act of Parliament on the 31st of July 1914. As I say, the lock was partly restored in 1995 and 1996 by the Wessex Waterways Restoration Trust. And you can see the brickwork that they've done on that, but of course it will need further restoration to bring it back into full use. So a new section of the Wilts Berks Canal here in Wiltshire, from here, Peterborough Arms, across there towards Sodom Lane, or a little bit further on. So if you want to explore some of the 7 locks, you can't look at all of them, of course, because it then goes into private land. I'll link to the Peterborough Arms website, so if you want to come here for a drink, thoroughly recommend you do that and explore this section of the Wilts Berks, then you can welcome to that. And they have a car park here on the road which goes on to Wotton Basset. So that's it for today here on West Country Wanderings. I hope you enjoyed it. Another canal series looking at another section of the Wilts Berks Canal, and I'll also link to my Foxham Locks one, which I did before, which is not that far away, if you want to have a look at that as well. Till next time, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Bye-bye.